His wife refused intimacy, saying, "Don't touch me. I get to decide what happens with my body." The next day he responded in kind, "I decide what happens with my money. Don't touch me, Mark. I choose what happens to my body." Those were the exact words Elena Turner had said to her husband before slamming the bedroom door so hard the walls shook, leaving him stunned on the bed. She had no idea that the quiet man she had ignored for months had already created a financial plan so airtight that her entire scheme could collapse in a single court session. What happened next will make you reconsider everything you thought you knew about marriage, loyalty, and consequences. Have you ever watched arrogance turn into panic before your eyes? And what would you do if the person you loved treated you like that? Share your thoughts in the comments. Evening light bathed the Turner home in a warm glow, stretching across the open living room and settling gently on the polished hardwood floors. Mark Turner walked in from the garage, exuding the calm confidence of a man who had built his life piece by piece, brick by brick, with his own hands. His black work shirt carried the faint scent of motor oil and metal, proof of another long day at the auto shop he owned, where the predictable hum of engines felt safer than anything happening inside his own home. He placed his keys in the ceramic bowl by the door and took a moment to breathe, letting the familiar scent of home fill him. The house looked perfect from the outside. High ceilings, tasteful decor, soft lights chosen by Elena years ago. But beneath the beauty, a tense stillness had been creeping in for months. Mark walked into the dining room, where Elena sat at the far end of the long wooden table, her phone propped against a candle holder. The screen lit her face as she smiled, her fingers brushing her curled hair. Her voice floated lightly, speaking to someone who made her feel young and excited. Mark paused at the doorway. He didn't want to intrude, but he couldn't help noticing the tone she no longer used with him. When her call ended, she quickly wiped her smile away and locked her phone. Seeing him, her expression stiffened, a mask of neutrality forming instantly. "Oh, hey," she said, forcing her voice calm. "Didn't hear you come in." Mark stepped closer, loosening the top button of his shirt with the familiar ease of someone who had been on his feet since dawn. "Long day," he said, his smile warm but restrained. "I thought you'd be resting. You look dressed up." Elena glanced down at her blouse and shrugged. "Went out with the girls after work. Nothing serious." He nodded, wanting to believe her, but a tight feeling grew in his chest. "I was thinking we could eat together," he suggested gently. She shook her head, picking at a small thread on her sleeve. "I already ate." "You didn't," Mark said evenly. "It's fine," Elena replied, her eyes darting sideways to avoid deeper conversation. She pushed back her chair and stood. "I'm exhausted. The clinic was crazy today. I just want to shower and sleep." Mark nodded, though something inside him felt bruised. He watched her walk toward the stairs, the soft thud of her heels echoing in the quiet house, observing someone he once knew by heart, someone who used to run into his arms the moment he came home. He turned off the lights downstairs and headed upstairs to unwind. In the bedroom, Elena was already under the covers, her phone casting a glow on her face as she scrolled through messages, lips curling into faint smiles she didn't notice. Mark changed into comfortable clothes and slid into bed beside her. The mattress sank under his weight, causing her to shift slightly. He draped an arm gently around her waist, not grabbing, not pulling, just a soft touch meant to reconnect. Her body stiffened. "Mark, not tonight," she said quietly, but sharply, as if his touch were an intrusion. "I'm stressed. I need sleep." He withdrew his hand slowly, giving her space, though the disappointment in his eyes was unavoidable. "We haven't been close in a while," he said softly. "I miss you." She sighed heavily and set her phone down with an annoyed tap. "Please don't start," she said. "I'm tired, not in the mood." He tried again, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder, hoping she just needed warmth. She pulled away abruptly, rolling out of his reach. Then she faced him, eyes sharp, voice firm, slicing through the room. "Don't touch me," she said clearly. "I decide what to do with my body." Her words sank into him like stones dropped into deep water. She got up, grabbed her pillow, and walked toward the door without looking back. A moment later, the guest room door clicked shut. Mark lay frozen on his side of the bed, staring at the empty space where his wife had been. The ceiling blurred slightly as his thoughts scattered with quiet heaviness. He wasn't angry. At least, not yet. What he felt was deeper, quieter, like the subtle sound of a foundation shifting beneath a house. And as the night wore on, he realized something he had been ignoring for months. Something was breaking, and he hadn't yet built the machinery to fix it. Morning light crept through the blinds, casting pale stripes across the bed where Mark awoke alone. The space beside him remained untouched, cool and stiff, as if no one had slept there at all. He sat up slowly, running a hand over his face, letting the quiet settle over him like a weight. The house felt different. Not just quiet, but drained, of warmth, as if someone had quietly carried it away overnight. He swung his legs over the side of the bed, feet touching the cool hardwood floor, gathering his thoughts. Mark wasn't a man who overreacted, and he wasn't the type to demand explanations. He had built a company from the ground up by staying calm under pressure, thinking before speaking, letting solutions form in his mind before acting. But today, the silence in the house cut sharper than any problem on the production floor. He walked to the guest room door and paused, hand hovering before knocking. He didn't want to startle her or seem confrontational. He simply wanted to understand. "Elena," he said softly, tapping twice. "You awake?" A pause followed, long enough to make him think she wouldn't answer, until her muffled voice floated through the door. "Yeah, I'm awake. Can we talk?" he asked. She didn't open the door. "Not now," she replied. "I'm getting ready for work. Don't have time." Mark lingered a few seconds, hands still near the doorframe. Her dismissiveness stung, but he forced his voice steady. "All right, we can talk later then." He walked downstairs, trying to shake the heaviness in his chest. Sitting at the table with his laptop, he checked updates from the engineering team, reports, production adjustments, purchase approvals. But for the first time in years, his focus was fractured. He reread sentences, missed details, and kept blinking away the image of Elena's words. "I decide what to do with my body." His employees knew him as precise, someone who anticipated problems before they became disasters. Today, he felt like he was moving through fog. Around 9 a.m., Elena finally came downstairs. She wore a fitted blazer, silk blouse, and subtle makeup, more than her usual weekday routine. She avoided eye contact as she grabbed an apple and sparkling water. Mark watched silently, waiting for the right moment. "You didn't sleep well," he said softly, merely observing. She paused, adjusting her purse strap. "I slept fine," she replied, though her eyes told another story. He nodded once. "Okay." He sipped coffee and set the mug down. "I just want to know what's bothering you, Elena. You've been distant. You barely talk to me. You don't let me touch you. I want to understand." Finally, she looked at him, expression cool and unreadable. "Mark, I told you I'm stressed. I need space. I don't want to talk about it right now." He studied her face, searching for the woman who used to run into his arms, curl up beside him, laugh with him about nothing. "Space shouldn't mean shutting me out," he said quietly. "I'm your husband." She tightened her jaw, eyes flicking. "Away." "I have to go," she said, grabbing her car keys. "I'm already late." Without a kiss, goodbye, or a single soft word, she walked out. The door closed behind her with a finality that left Mark staring at the empty space where she had stood. He remained at the table a long moment, letting the stillness settle. He wasn't angry yet, but a knot formed in his stomach. A warning that something deeper was happening, something she wasn't ready to say. He stood, grabbed his jacket, and headed to the garage. The familiar smell of metal, oil, and machinery grounded him. Sliding into the driver's seat of his black SUV, he started the engine. The smooth rumble, a sound he had helped design, steadied him. The ride to the facility offered time to think. Trees flashed past. Sunlight cast shifting patterns across the dashboard. He remembered when coming home to Elena had been the highlight of his day. Now, the thought filled him with quiet dread. But Mark wasn't a man who acted on impulse. He believed in clarity, evidence, and understanding before reacting. He told himself he would give her time. Time to find footing again. Yet a quiet voice warned him. Something was slipping away. and he didn't know how to catch it. Pulling into the company lot, workers greeted him with respect, unaware that the calm, capable man stepping out of the SUV carried a storm inside him. He straightened, inhaled deeply, and walked toward the entrance, reminding himself that home could be handled later. But her words echoed in his mind. "Don't touch me. I decide what to do with my body." He knew this was only the beginning. Inside Turner Automotive Laboratories, the hum of machines, clanging metal, and distant engine tests filled the concrete halls. Mark moved through the main engineering wing with calm authority. Workers straightened instinctively as he passed. "You all right, boss?" Rob Myers, his lead engineer, asked as they entered the design bay. Mark exhaled slowly, setting his tablet down. "Just tired, long night." Rob noticed the subtle stiffness in his voice. Mark didn't crack easily. He handled crises with steady hands and calm mind, but today weighed on him. "You want to walk the prototype room?" "Might clear your head," Rob offered. Mark nodded, grateful for the distraction. They passed through steel doors into the bright, white expanse where the new electric performance vehicle sat like a piece of art. Sleek curves and exposed wiring told the story of months of intense design. Mark ran his fingers over the smooth metal, grounding himself. Machines never lied. They either worked or they didn't. No gray areas, no excuses, no sudden distance in the middle of the night. He let the cool metal steady his thoughts. "You're distracted," Rob said gently. "Never seen you this quiet." Mark sighed, leaning on the workbench. "It's Elena," he said, the name falling with frustration and sadness. "She's different, distant, cold." Rob nodded slowly. "Marriage goes through phases. Maybe she's stressed. Her job isn't easy." Mark's voice tightened. "This is different. She avoids me. She pulls away. Last night she went to the guest room after saying, those words." Rob's brows lifted in concern. "Damn. She said that word for word?" A long silence followed. "And that's not even what keeps me up," Mark added. "It's the lies, the smiles she gives someone else on the phone but won't give me any more." Rob rubbed the back of his neck. "Look, I'm not saying anything happened, but sometimes when someone pulls away like that, their attention is somewhere else." Mark didn't respond, jaw clenched, emotions tightening like over-torqued bolts. "I'm not jumping to conclusions," he said calmly. "I'm not that man, but something is off, deeply off." Rob nodded. "You deserve answers. You've always given her everything." Mark remained silent, unwilling to admit what he wasn't ready to face. Rob stood. "Walk with me to the garage floor. There's something you should see." They stepped into the production bay, where workers moved among welding stations and forklifts rumbled steadily. The noise filled the air, giving Mark found something else to focus on as he observed the team installing components with precise, methodical movements. Yet even as he watched, Elena's face kept flashing before him. The cold stare, the quick excuses, the locked phone lighting up with messages she turned away from. He inhaled deeply, rubbing the back of his neck. He could handle failing machines, business setbacks and market disruptions, but not silence from the woman he loved. Not rejection without reason. Not a home that felt foreign. By noon, Mark excused himself from the floor and went to his office overlooking the factory. He sat behind his wide desk, staring through the glass wall at workers moving with purpose below. His phone buzzed. It was a message from Elena. "I'm taking a half-day going to the spa with the girls. Don't wait for me. Dinner's in the fridge if you get hungry." No heart emoji. No warmth. No explanation. Mark stared at the message, something inside him hardening. Polite words, but empty. He typed nothing, not out of spite, but because he didn't know what to say without sounding desperate. Placing the phone face down, he leaned back, fingers steepled in front of his lips. A soft knock came at the door. It was Linda, his administrative assistant. "Mr. Turner, just a reminder about the investor call at 2. "Thank you," he said, standing and adjusting his collar. The call went flawlessly. His voice remained steady, his ideas sharp. No one on the video call would have guessed his personal life was unraveling. But when the screen went black, Mark didn't move, overwhelmed by quiet frustration. That evening, Elena came home looking energized, almost glowing. She turned when she heard him, smiling in a way that felt rehearsed. "Hey," she said, voice falsely light. "You're home early," Mark replied calmly, setting his keys on the counter. "This is my usual time," he added when she hesitated. "Oh, well," she said, brushing hair behind her ear. "I didn't notice." For a moment neither spoke. The kitchen lights glowed softly over the granite countertops and stainless steel appliances. Everything looked perfect. Everything except the distance between them. Finally, Elena broke the silence with a sudden burst of energy. "So, I need some money," she said casually, as if asking for a glass of water. "I'm planning a solo vacation, just me. I need a break from everything." Mark listened quietly, absorbing her words. "A solo vacation? Where?" She shrugged. "I haven't decided yet. Maybe Miami, maybe Malibu, somewhere relaxing." She smiled softly, eyes glimmering. "I really need it. And how much are you asking for?" he asked steadily. $100,000, she replied without hesitation. Mark blinked. 100,000? "Yes, just a little getaway," she said, leaning on the counter. "You know how hard I've been working. I deserve this." He exhaled slowly. He wasn't a man who raised his voice or acted out of anger. He spoke with intention. "Elena," he said quietly, "you haven't spoken to me properly in months. You sleep in the guest room. You avoid me. You deny me intimacy. And now you suddenly need $100,000 for a solo vacation?" She stiffened. "So now you're keeping score?" "No," he said calmly. "I'm asking for honesty." Her eyes narrowed. "Are you refusing me?" "Yes," he said, stepping closer, voice steady. "I'm refusing." Her mouth fell open. He continued, each word measured. "You made it very clear last night that you decide what to do with your body. Now I decide what I do with my money." The air cracked. Shock, then fury crossed her face. "Are you serious? You're refusing me after everything I've done?" "I'm not your bank, Elena," he said. "Wow. Unbelievable. Selfish, controlling man," she scoffed, grabbing her purse. "Then be ready to give me half of everything. As far as I'm concerned, this marriage is over." She stormed out, heels echoing down the hall, slamming the bedroom door so hard the picture frames rattled. Mark stood still for a moment, letting silence settle. He didn't chase her. He didn't plead. He walked to the living room, sat on the couch, and let the truth sink in. She had made her choice. 2 days passed in tense silence. Elena barely spoke, moved around like a stranger, whispering into her phone, leaving early, returning late. On the third morning, she entered his office holding a crisp stack of papers. Chin high, eyes bright with certainty, voice triumphant. "I want a divorce. Sign." Mark looked at the papers, then at her, and laughed. Deep, genuine, uncontrollable. "Gladly," he said, picking up the pen. She blinked, stunned. "You're not even going to read it?" "I don't need to," Mark said, sliding the papers back. "You've already shown me everything I need to know." Her lips curled in a triumphant smirk as she snatched the papers. "You're going to regret this, Mark. When I get half—" "You won't," he said calmly. "You don't know how divorce works," she scoffed. "You're right," Mark said with a slow smile. "You don't." Confused but clinging to her arrogance, she walked away, thinking she had won. But the game had never been played on her level. The divorce hearing began at 9 a.m. By 8:50, the courtroom was half full. Mark entered with his attorney, Stephen Langford, a calm, precise man who didn't waste words. He sat straight, hands resting calmly on the table. Elena arrived shortly after with her attorney, Christopher Wellman, confident and almost triumphant. She wore a fitted cream suit, flawless makeup, fully believing today would change her life. She sat, legs crossed, never looking at Mark. The clerk called the case, Elena Marie Turner versus Mark Anthony Turner. Everyone rose as Judge Howard entered, short and stern. "No dramatic introductions, just business. We're here for property division." "Petitioner may proceed," the judge said. Wellman rose. "Your Honor, My client seeks 50% of all marital assets. Mr. Turner owns Turner Automotive, a highly profitable company. Langford responded with quiet confidence. Your Honor, Mr. Turner does not personally own Turner Automotive. It is owned by Turner Automotive LLC, formed 7 years before the marriage. All records were provided in discovery. Judge Howard reviewed the documents. The LLC predates the marriage. Wellman, the petitioner had no knowledge, she said. Irrelevant, the judge said. Ownership is not determined by assumption. After reviewing the evidence, Judge Howard ruled. The LLC's assets are not marital property. Mr. Turner's personal assets are minimal. The petition for division is denied. Dissolution granted. No spousal support. No further obligations. Elena's face drained of color. My client believed— Sit, Mrs. Turner, the judge interrupted. Her arrogance shattered. For the first time, fear flickered in her eyes. She looked at Mark. Please. I made a mistake, she whispered, voice trembling. You made many, he said softly. I can fix them. Please give me another chance, she begged, tears forming. Mark looked at her with unwavering steadiness, a clarity she had never noticed. You didn't lose today because of the court, he said softly. You lost because you stopped being a partner long before this divorce started. You pushed me away, dismissed me, disrespected me, and then tried to take half of what I built without ever standing beside me. Her knees buckled. She sank into a chair, silent sobs shaking her body, realizing her arrogance, her affair, her greed, her assumptions, all of it had led her here. Mark stepped into the bright hallway, the morning sun lighting a path forward, clean, free, and open. He didn't look back.